It was the end of the Korean War, and it was pre-Vietnam. See, we lived in Downey, and if you got out of the draft board, they'd have a group of numbers. They were taking 30 people a month out of Downey that are going to be drafted. If you could get out someplace and find a reserve camp, you wouldn't have to go to active duty. It was like there was no chance of joining a reserve group. All the reserve groups were taken up. Except I was working at the shipyards, and I met this guy at Todd Shipyards, and he belonged to a reserve unit. And it's on the outskirts. It's down by Long Beach. And I said, man, I'm gonna get drafted in 2 days. I gotta do something. And he says, well, why don't you come down and join our reserve group? And they had room for me. He said, okay, we'll sign you up next week. And I says, oh no, you gotta sign me up now. And he says, I says, you got a typewriter? I'll fill it out. You know, they had clerk typists, but they said, oh, just a minute. So they went out and went in the back room, and they typed it up, and we took it down, and I turned it into the draft board the following Monday. I got within 2 days of being drafted. The reserves went down, and we met every Sunday. And then one Sunday they said, okay, our reserve group is going to be, is going to go in, you're going to go in for 6 months. I went down, got aboard the train. I went to Fort Ord and took my basic training, and then I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And my dad had always told me, you take typing, you'll know how to do it for the rest of your life. So I took typing for a year, I guess my sophomore year. And I'm at Fort Leonard Wood, and they line all the troops up, and they're lined up. And then you fill all this paperwork, which is standard paperwork for the Army. And then at the end of the standard paperwork, they gave you a 3x5 card. And it wasn't government issued or anything. I don't know why they didn't give me this. And we got one question for you. Do you know how to type? And you answered yes or no. And then you typed in, you turned in all your regular Army stuff. And so the next day, while the guys are all lined up on the parade field, they said, all right, go out and police up the area, you know, and then come back, and we got some basic training courses that you have to take. They said, except Private Zimmerman. I said, what the hell is this all about? So anyway, all the troops march off, and I'm standing in the middle of this big parade field all by myself. So I was standing there, and this drill sergeant came by, and he said, soldier, what are you doing standing out here? I says, I don't know, they called my name. And then somebody says, oh, they want him over in headquarters. So they showed me where headquarters are, and I marched over there. And that's when I met Sergeant Muir. I walked in, and he said, looked at me, and he says, do you really know how to type? I said, yeah. He says, go over to the typewriter and type me some lines. So I did. And there were 2 guys in there from Notre Dame, and their time was up. and they were going to go back home. They basically came over and told me, you come down here in the morning and you make coffee and do the typing, clerk typing for Sergeant Muir. Okay. I says, well, we know they have typists in the Army already. He says, they don't know how to type. And he says, I want you in here because you took typing in high school and know how to type. I'm Sergeant Muir's typist, but, I'm incognito, nobody knows I'm a typist. So one morning I come to the office and there are two MPs in there. And I says, yes, can I help you? And he says, is Sergeant Muir here? He says, he's not in this morning. I don't know when he'll be in. He said, well, we're looking for him. I says, can I tell you what he's looking for? He says, attempted murder. He shot a guy's ear off last night. And I says, with a 45? He says, yeah, with a 45, I says, you don't want Sergeant Muir. Well, why not? What are you talking about, soldier? He's about shot a guy's ear off. I said, Sergeant Muir was an expert with a 45 in Korea. And if Sergeant Muir would have meant to shoot a guy's ear off, he would have shot his ear off. And they looked at us, and I says, okay, what should I tell Sergeant Muir when he comes in? And these MPs looked at me and they said, we're busy, and they walked off. So Sergeant Muir comes in about a week later and he says, Mike, somebody be looking for me? I says, yeah, two MPs are in here. I says, what they want? I says, they wanted you for attempted murder. But I told them, you can't get him for attempted murder because he shot the guy's ear off. When I was in Fort Leonard Wood, I write to the Ralph and Parsons Company and I said, I'm coming home. Is that job still available? Because I'm looking for a job. I'm getting out. I've served my time. So they write back to me and they says, yes, and we'll have a job for you. And so I had a job for the Ralph and Parsons Company before I got home. I've been for 6 months, and they put me on a bus, and I ride a bus all the way from Missouri back to Downey, Then I go back on Sunday where our reserve unit's located. And we no more get out there. I'm just off active duty. And they said, okay, they've activated our reserve group. And I said, what do you mean? They said, go home, get all your gear, come back. You're going in the Army. I'm thinking, gee, I just spent 6 months in the Army, So I get my stuff, come back next Sunday. We line up, and they said, all right, we're not going to leave this weekend. Go back home and come back. We did that for a month, back and forth. So they said, all right, we'll tell you what the story is now. How many of you are not eligible for active duty? I'm thinking, what the hell kind of question is that, How many have a critical skill? I'm thinking, critical skill. They said, yeah. How many are working in the defense industry today? Oh. So I stepped forward. They said, okay, soldier, what do you do? Well, I work for the Ralph M. Parsons Company. I work on the Minuteman silos. They said, okay, soldier, go home. you're not eligible for active duty.
Wow.